Welcome back to CVTV News, brought to you by Germanna Community College. Do you have documents, papers, receipts, or reports that you don't want to put in the trash because you think someone might steal your identity?
I do indeed.
Okay, well, if you do, if you're like David, you're not alone. It's better to shred them first, but if you don't have a shredder, and most of us don't, then take note. Stafford County Crime Solvers is hosting a shredding party fundraiser. Yes, you heard that right, a shredding party.
How exciting.
It is. Sounds exciting. Crime Solvers is an organization that raises money to help provide rewards for tips or assistance that leads to solving crimes and getting convictions. As Sheriff David Kerr noted, Stafford County Crime Solvers has been a great help to the local law enforcement for decades, but they don't get any public money. It's all privately raised.
And they're all volunteers.
They are volunteers. So at $5 a box and no more than 100 pounds of paper per vehicle, you can get your documents shredded on Saturday, April 6th from 9 to 1 at the Stafford County Sheriff's Department office at 1225 Courthouse Road. That's near the Route 630 exit. It will be run on a drive-through basis. It's a little bit like a car wash, so come and shred your old documents to help out a great cause.
I'm going to be there.
Okay.
Well, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam was in Charlottesville on Tuesday to push for passage of a bill repealing driver's license suspensions. Under the current law, suspensions occur when people involved in the criminal justice system fail to pay or fall behind on paying court costs. Northam will be introducing a budget amendment that will be considered when the General Assembly reconvenes in April. He made his comments at the Legal Aid Justice Center in Charlottesville, which filed a class action lawsuit to end the practice. Northam says the suspensions lead to even bigger problems for the suspended driver. When a person's driver's license is suspended, said the governor, they face a difficult dilemma: obey the suspension and potentially lose their ability to provide for their families, or drive anyway and face further punishment and even jail for driving on a suspended license. So it's a very worthwhile, I think it's a very worthwhile initiative on the part of the governor. We'll see how that fares when it gets to the legislature.
Right. That catch-22 is so important.
Absolutely.
While doing research for stories this week, I happened upon a real treasure.
Sounds exciting.
It is. It's the Treasure House, located behind Massaponax High School in Fredericksburg. The Treasure House is not a thrift store for any old consumer. In fact, their clientele is a group you may have never noticed. It's a specifically designed resource for students and families that fall under the definitions of the McKinney-Vento Homelessness Assistance Act. The McKinney-Vento Act addresses the rights of students who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. This applies to children and youth who are sharing a home due to loss of housing, economic hardship, or a similar reason, are living in motels, hotels, trailer parks, or campgrounds due to the lack of alternative adequate accommodations, are living in emergency or transitional shelters, or are abandoned in hospitals. Children and youth who have a primary nighttime residence that is a public or private place not designed for or ordinarily used as a regular sleeping accommodation for human beings. Also those who are living in cars, parks, public spaces, abandoned buildings, substandard housing, bus or train stations or similar settings, and also migratory children. Any family identified as McKinney-Vento or who has an active referral from a school social worker may shop at the Treasure House once a month. If there are emergency needs during the month, families should contact their school social worker. In the meantime, the Treasure House provides necessity items that most people take for granted, like laundry soap, toilet paper, undergarments, socks, feminine hygiene products, and diapers. Through special approval, crock pots can be reserved for families who reside in hotels, as well as perishable foods. Donated clothing is laundered and stored for dressing day events. If you're experiencing homelessness, you may contact your school's social worker or access the link that we're going to show below here to the guidelines that ensure that all families in need have equal access. This link also gives you information on the mobile food pantry that visits Treasure House on the second Thursday of every month from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. The Treasure House is open every Tuesday and Thursday from 1 to 3 p.m. If school is closed due to a holiday or inclement weather, and it falls on a Tuesday or Thursday, the Treasure House is likewise closed. We now take it over to George Kerns for a look at what's happening in the sports.
George.
Thanks, guys. George Kerns here for CVTV Sports. In NHL news, the Washington Capitals riding in first place ahead of the New York Islanders with a record of 45-24 with 98 points. The season will be coming to a close soon, and we will see if the Capitals can repeat as Stanley Cup champions. In NBA news, the Washington Wizards are fading back more and more in the division and the playoffs as they are 31-44, 6 games back in the Southeast Division and the NBA playoffs. In Major League Baseball, opening day is among us with the New York Mets visiting the Washington Nationals and the Baltimore Orioles visiting the New York Yankees. The Nationals lost their opener to the New York Mets 2-0. In NFL news, pass interference, whether flagged or not, can be challenged by NFL coaches and reviewed by officials next season. This comes to play because no call was made when the St. Louis Rams was at New Orleans in the NFC Championship, and the Ram defender hit New Orleans wide receiver at the 10-yard line before the ball got there. In NASCAR news, Brad Keselowski won the race this past weekend, and NASCAR reshuffled its schedule for 2020. They are trying to meet the wants of the fans. The season comes to an end 1 week earlier than usual, but still includes 38 events to run from a February 9th exhibition race at Daytona through the finale on November 8th at ISM Raceway outside of Phoenix. The playoffs now begin at Darlington on September 6th, go to Richmond, Bristol, Las Vegas, Talladega, Charlotte, Kansas, Texas, Martinsville, then finally ISM Raceway. In NCAA men's basketball, March Madness is breaking up the brackets, so to speak. I wonder how many brackets were broken. Yes, mine was, but I did predict the Liberty Flames from Lynchburg, Virginia would beat Mississippi State, and they almost beat Virginia Tech. And how about Duke getting a scare from Central Florida and should have lost but hung on to win and set up a showdown in the Sweet 16 with Virginia Tech. Virginia plays Oregon on Thursday night at 10 o'clock, so here's the rundown of the Sweet 16. In the East on Thursday, March 28th, Michigan State versus LSU at 7:09, and on Friday, March 29th, Virginia Tech versus Duke at 9:30. In the Midwest on Friday, March 29th, North Carolina versus Auburn at 7:29, and Kentucky versus Houston at 9:59. And the channels for these games are CBS, TNT, TBS, or True TV. In the West, Thursday semis, Florida State versus Gonzaga at 7:09, Texas Tech versus Michigan at 9:39. In the South, Tennessee versus Purdue at 7:29, and Virginia versus Oregon at 9:59. We will see who makes the Elite Eight and then the Final Four for next weekend. In NCAA women's, Louisville and UConn could meet in the Elite Eight on Sunday. Mississippi State, Baylor, and Notre Dame are all in the Sweet 16. We will see how this plays out in the Elite Eight and the Final Four. In golf news, just wanted to remind you about the Masters coming up April 11th through the 14th. Well, that's a look at sports. I'm George Kerns for CVTV Sports. Back to you guys.
And we do want to thank you for tuning in to CVTV News. It's our pleasure to share what's happening locally with our audience.
We know you have a choice for local news, and we're happy to be your resource.
So next week, tune us in. We'd like to be your local news source.